And hello, everybody. Happy
Yeah.
Sunday. We might as well go ahead and bring the guy out because there ain't no point in hiding this man. Chris Reinhardt is our guest today, which I'm very happy with. Chris and I are buddies, and he's got his own show, so it's not like he's not used to anything like this. Uh, and let me say hello to everybody in the chat. How y'all doing?
I
A
guess.
couple people watching already. Hope everybody had a good weekend and is off to a good start on Sunday. Uh anyway, Chris, how you doing, man?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me, and congratulations on the new show and new friends, Misty. Nice to meet her for the first time today. So things are good on this Sunday afternoon. I'm happy to be here and look forward to talking about whatever you want to talk about.
Oh, we can talk about a lot of stuff, but we're gonna keep it narrowed down. So in case you're not familiar with Chris, which you should be, Chris has the Discover Sasquatch channel. And didn't you recently start going live on a radio?
Yeah, we just started doing a broadcast on KGRA DB, digital broadcasting, on Thursdays at 7 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah. But Chris has been in the field for a few years, and he's one of the guys that I talk to a lot personally about new techniques, new technologies, and equipment that we can try in the field and everything. And he's given me a lot of good insight and ideas about things. And I thought maybe we might go over that because a lot of people getting into the field, and remember, you got to keep in mind, I tried to do the show a little bit different. So on this show, again, I'm not so much interested in trying to 100% prove to everybody about Bigfoot. It's on my show. We're going to do things from the point of view that we accept the whole Bigfoot phenomenon. We don't really know what it is per se, but we accept it. We're not here to prove it. So like on this one, I specifically wanted to get with Chris and pick his brain about that steep learning curve when you first get in this field. Because when you become interested in the subject, I think it's fair to say that 9 times out of 10, a lot of people, they go walking on trails in like national forest or whatnot. And they might do stuff like knock on a tree or, make calls at night or stuff like that. Or maybe they just run out in their backyard and put a peanut butter sandwich out and, hope for results or whatnot. But going from that to actually, getting out in the woods and getting with other people that have had a lot of experience and trying to actually produce results and trying to gain information on this subject and everything, which is kind of touchy anyway, because everybody's got opinions about it, but we don't really know 100% a whole lot of stuff factually about the subject. So there's a large area there of a learning curve where you go from kind of trying to gain a bunch of knowledge on the subject than to actually implementing it and trying to get results. So Chris is one of the guys that has really in the past several years, he's tried a whole lot of stuff and he has consistently ramped up his results because of this stuff. And I thought he would be, the perfect person to talk about like where he started at and what he was doing all the way up to what he has learned from it, via trial and error, and how he's gotten to where he is now, what he uses, what techniques and everything. So, Chris, you want to start and briefly go over in the beginning, like real quick, how you got involved and like what you learned and things you started adjusting and changing and to end up to where you're at now and the results you've gotten now. Can we kind of mini recap it?
Yeah, sure. When I first started, it was all about YouTube people. I didn't even know that people were actually in the woods researching Sasquatch. I just thought it was the same guys you saw on TV on the specials. I thought that's all it was. I didn't think that it was a thing. Me, you, Misty, anybody can
Right.
go out in the woods and look for these guys. I didn't think people actually did it until I was introduced to YouTube because I got rid of cable TV, and that's how I got. I was always interested in the Bigfoot world, but that's how I got introduced was YouTube. And then you go onto YouTube and you got 100 different people doing 100 different things. So like you and myself, we pick out our favorites, who we like to watch, and we kind of try to imitate what they do. We try to take our own aspect on what they're doing. And I think that the biggest problem when people start off doing that is that they're so close-minded. Their square is very small. And I did the same thing. I'm not saying it's the wrong thing to do a thing, but they're all they're saying, say we watch the Beast Guys, and the Beast Guys are all about in the woods, boots on the ground. They're tracking, they're doing this thing, but they're not using like meters, or they're not using this kind of stuff. Or I'm just using that as an example. So
Right.
you follow what they do, and you're in that box, and that's where I was when I first started. I was in that little box, and I was following. I forgot who I was following at first, and it was all tree structures, and that's what I was hooked on. I was looking for tree structures, and I thought, that was the greatest thing since. Uh, I'm trying to use an example. What's really good food? Biscuits and gravy. How's that? That's a good one, right? So I thought that was the best thing since biscuits and gravy's coming upon a structure, and I was putting out videos on the structures, and I thought it was like the biggest thing. But then when you go down that, you get kind of discouraged. But then after a while, you start thinking, and you learn that you are not the first one that has found this structure. To you, it is the biggest thing that's ever happened to you, but to the rest of everybody else, it's not. It's just something else that everybody else has found. And it kind of got discouraging at the beginning. So then you hop to the next level. There's a lot of people saying, well, don't watch this one and don't follow this one. The best example I can give to people is take your own route when you start. Do your research, have an open mind, and follow your instincts and make your own path because everybody else has made their path. Make your own path, learn from others, and come up with your own ideas. And I think that way they'll have more fun in the woods and it'll be more interesting. That took me 5 years to do that. It took me 5 years to pick my own path and to do my own thing. And ever since then, I have had many of an interaction with the Sasquatch, which I believe the Sasquatch um, I guess that's a roundabout way of explaining how it started for me and where I'm at now because I have made my own path now. I use my own techniques. I do listen, like I listen to your ideas, like Mark Green's ideas and Chris Connor's. I have a lot of people I talk to. I have a little community I'm involved with, but you take that and you learn from that and you move forward. You just got to keep on pressing forward and trying different things.
Yeah. I mean, me personally, I agree wholeheartedly with what you're saying because, like you, I started out, just wandering through the woods aimlessly, looking for like tracks and possible structures. And like when I would find a possible structure, I'd sit there for 3 hours going, could this be real? Could it be, actual Bigfoot booger stuff doing this? And whenever I got to the point where I was like, man, I think this is legit, I'd show people it's like nobody cared. Nobody cared. They're like, yeah, it's just stick structures. And, could mean anything, could be natural. I mean, because you got to admit, nature does some weird stuff. I mean, you find stuff in the woods and, maybe you do come to the conclusion that it's, manipulation. But there's always that percentage that could be a person, could be natural or whatever. But yeah, wholeheartedly on the following your own thing. And we definitely tend to, because the subject is kind of a mystery in the beginning, so you don't really know what to do except for what you see on some of the podcasts or some of the Facebook pages, or God forbid some of the TV shows or whatnot. uh, but that's how you get into it. What what do you think in your experience, whenever you were first were starting down the path, what was like the thing that convinced you? What ended up producing the first results for you, and then what made you start to like open up your mind to using these other things? What was the first thing that really produced somewhat tangible results for you?
Okay, so the first thing that that changed my mind, and I knew that something was in the woods, was we're at an area that I call Rock Throw Alley, and we had just got done checking out a couple of tree structures, and we're on our way out of the woods. We get, I don't know, 10 steps away from the logging trail, and all of a sudden we hear a dog whimper. And we're in a state forest, and we figured that a dog got hit by a car and ran into the woods, is laying in the grass, and it's hurt and it's whimpering. You can hear it loud and clear. Hmm, hmm. So we go towards it, and we get to the area where the noise is coming from, and there's nothing there. There is nothing there. 50 feet up to our left, the dog whimper noise happens again. So we figured it got scared. It crawled up there. We didn't see it. You know, it was on low to the ground. He crawled. So we went up there. We got to that area. Nothing's there. 50 feet up to our right, does it again. We get up to that spot, and now there's nothing there. And now my buddy's wise. He's like, whatever this is, it's luring us in deeper into the woods. It's getting dusk. We have no flashlights. So we decide to turn around, get back on the road, and head on out, because whatever it is, it's luring. And I agreed with him 100%. So we turned around and we get out to the woods, and all of a sudden we heard this. It was a weird noise. I can't imitate it. It's like a whoa. And we turn around and you hear it. A rock comes flying out of the woods through the foliage and lands right in back of us on the thing. We hightailed it to the car, but that's how that area got its name, Rock Throw Alley. That's why we call it Rock Throw Alley. That was the first, I would say, weird thing that happened to us. The first typical Sasquatch behavior that we had was a knock. But in an area that we call Larry's, we were walking down the same path. We check out all the structures again. This was all during the structure time. And then we're at this one area, and they knocked at us. It was the first thing. And I thought that was the best thing since sliced bread. Yeah, there's another one. It's a little bit better than biscuits and gravy, right?
No, it's not better than biscuits and gravy.
Well, that's true. That is true. But we hear the knock, and we've never heard a knock before. And we're at home. We got it on tape. We put out a big video, 300 views. You know, but then you learn that this is common. This is what they do. Don't get discouraged. Don't ever get discouraged at what you put out there. Nobody listens to you, because it all means something. Log it, put it in a book, film it, keep it, you know, because it's important. And it's important what time of the year. It's important what the weather was. It's important. All that stuff, you need to log that and tuck it away for that one day. And where they knocked at, we set up a bait station, a trading post. 6 years we traded with them at that spot where that knock came from. So that's why it's important. We learned so much from that trading area in 6 years' time. It'll blow your mind. We knew when they were going to be there. We knew what months they were there. We knew what they liked. We knew what they didn't like. We knew what they would leave. They knew what they would take. We knew the games that they played. We learned a ton of stuff just from those 2 knocks. So that's why it's important to always log, pay attention, and learn from what they give you, because they will give it to you. It's going to be small and it's not going to be huge. They're not going to shout at you, say, hey, over here, you know, start trading us with here, because this is what's going to go down. We just took it that the 2 knocks was a place to try to start trading with them. And it took over a month before it started at that spot. But once it started, it never ended for 6 years.
All right. Let me kind of put a pin in that, and let's touch on some stuff that you just said, because like, again, for newer people or for people that don't get a lot of activity, you just gave us a ton of stuff in one little section right there. So if it's okay with you, can I kind of pick your brain just a little bit?
Yeah,
So
sure.
whenever you found structures in a certain area, you said that you had gone back in and checked those structures again. So I'm assuming that, like me, you would repeatedly go to the same area, checking the same structures to see maybe if anything had changed with the structures? Is that what you were doing?
Yeah, we would revisit the same spots because we that's how we okay, yeah. We'll go I won't get too ahead of myself. Here comes here comes that adrenaline's coming. I'm ready to go with it. But
No,
yes,
that
we would often go back to the same spot to check on the structures to see if they would change or if anything was left at them.
right.
Yes.
Did you find anything change on the
Oh yeah,
structure?
we would change them. We would find change all the time, and then we would find. Eventually, we found gifts. We were
Right.
getting stones and stuff like that left for us that were never there. Always film, always log, always, 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 because that way you can back up everything you say, and it's always good to have someone with you too at those times.
Now, whenever you started actually putting stuff out, gifting, what did you use that got the first response? What was the first thing that they actually took, and it was a clear they took something and left you something?
Well, the first time they took the stuff off of our trading post, they took everything. There was a pitcher, there was a pouch of tobacco, there was an apple. I believe there was a plastic dinosaur, and I believe there was I want to say a jar of peanut butter. I am not 100% sure, but they everything on top of the rock was gone, emptied. So that's how we knew that it would take hands or somebody there with a garbage bag. There's no way they found that area. We went there for 6 years, never saw a human ever, ever, ever. That was our first experience. They took everything off the stone.
How long were you going there before you got the knock and it registered to you, hey, that's a knock? How long were you going to that area before you got a knock?
Oh, easily 6 months. Easily 6 months. And we were checking out again, we were looking at the structure. Structures are important. Don't get me wrong. There is nothing wrong with checking out structures because they lead you to bigger and better things if you use them. We would mark our structures down and we ended up making a trail, a big loop that came around to the rock and then out. And every time we would go in there, we would follow the same trail due to the structures.
Something on a slight, it's kind of the same thing, but a slightly different thought process on it. Did you notice when you were checking the structures, did you notice like roughly how far in between obvious structures was it from one to the other? And did you notice stuff like if they were pointing, were they pointing, all in the same direction, or were they at a similar elevation? Was there anything you gained whenever you're finding multiple structures in an area? Did you notice any kind of corresponding similarities between the structures, elevation, directional, the way they were woven together, anything like that?
Yeah, right. We didn't start noticing that until a lot later because we weren't hip to that. We weren't hip to the measurements and checking out. What we did was we would mark them all on our GPS. We had a little GPS, and when we found something, we would just click it. And then
Right.
we'd take the two structures, and we'd try to find the shortest distance between the two of them, and that's the route we would travel until it became a big loop. It was all a big loop. I mean, we even found a structure 6 years later that was a compass. It was hanging. It was in a spot. This is why it's important to go the same route every time because this was never there. And one spring it just appeared out of nowhere. And we were up there at 5 o'clock in the morning. The sun was coming right up in the center of the X. I'm like, Larry, we got to come back here. Remind me to bring the compass when we come. Sure as heck, we brought the compass the next time and we placed that compass right where the X started, and it was magnetic north on the dot. Um,
Magnetic north.
magnetic north. And while we were checking it out, two knocks in back of us, maybe 50 yards, maybe even probably even closer. The next weekend we came up, guess what? That thing was on the ground, taken out of the tree and left on the ground. Still magnetic north on the ground, but out of the tree, not visible by sight unless you knew where it was. And that's on my channel. You can go and see that. Everything I tell you guys tonight, you can go to my channel and see everything I say because we've logged it and it's all in videos.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even
In
that,
fact, Chris's channel is loaded with that.
yeah, even the knocks, you can see, you can hear them. Um, it's all right there for everybody to see.
So why do you think just and we'll carry on with the other stuff that you found in 1 second, but why do you think that boogers would mark something pointing exactly where magnetic north is? Because, if you think about something that lives in the woods, and I mean, that's its home, whenever you're in your home, inside your own home, you don't need a sign to tell you where the kitchen is or where the bathroom is. Why do you think, in your opinion, do you have any theories on that?
Others, I think others visit the same areas. They're meant to, they know what to look for. So say your Uncle Bob was in this area and you've never been there before and you're going to go visit Uncle Bob, you'll come into the area, you'll know how to find Uncle Bob. He'll have his signs out, you look for them, and he'll lead you right to him. That's my guess.
That's a good theory, I think. But anyway, so after you started putting out stuff and getting responses with what you were putting out, what happened then? What was like the next evolution of stuff that happened to you?
Huh. I was hooked on the interaction. That's what I wanted. I didn't want the tree structures anymore. I was done with them. I still look for them. But I was hooked on the interaction. I wanted the vocals. I wanted the wood knocks at you. I wanted you to know that they were there with us watching. Um, Larry had some crazy stuff going at his house. Um, are we all still good? I don't know what happened. I don't know. But anyways, if you guys can still hear me, there we go. Um, where was I? Yeah, I became an interaction junkie, if you want to say it that way. I was out for interaction. That's what I was looking for. And of course, we still look for all the signs that we always normally did, but that's what we were after. We were after the interaction because we believe that the interaction will bring you to those sightings. Or bring you closer to seeing them. And the problem that happened at the area that we call Larry's is that it sold after 6 years. They were following us at the end of the 6 years, letting us know they were behind us by knocking at us all the time. And then the property sold. I almost cried. I almost literally cried because that's 6 years down the tubes. We weren't just going there and knocking on trees and whistling and hollering. We didn't do that. We never, I don't think we've ever, maybe we knocked on trees twice while we were there out of 6 years and hooting and hollering, never. But they were there. I know they were there 100%. And I think we were this close for them showing themselves to us. Um, so that's what we progressed to was the interaction. We wanted to see them, and that's what we focused on, trying to catch them on trail cameras, trying different ways on trail cameras. We were digging soft spots around the trading post so we would get footprints, and they for some reason they would never step into it. But one of my friends told me, actually, she said, just tell them. And I know it sounds crazy, and there's stuff that I can't even tell you that's happened lately that's even crazier, but we're not going to go down that path today. But my friend told me, he said, go and say into the woods, please leave me a print here. And no lie, Spencer and Misty, 2 weeks later, there was a print dead center of that patch. It was 15 inches. I got it. I got it on the channel. It was and the problem is it rained the weekend before, so we couldn't make it up there. So it was a little like, the rain got to it a little bit, but you could still tell that it was a legitimate print. You would see the sides of it were all built up. The toes were present, the big heel, 15 inches, and right in the dead center of that. So we knew they listened. We learned that they were listening there.
Spencer, you're muted.
You're on mute.
I don't know what I hit when I was trying to respond to somebody, but I messed everything up. Well, so hold on though. You just said that you asked them nicely to leave you a print, and they did.
And they
So,
did.
so talk about your thoughts on, did they understand the English language? Did they understand? Yeah. What do you think?
They understand you. I'm at the point now where I know everything I would come out with right now would make me sound like a loon. And I am very sane. I am just a grandfather who collects baseball cards. I did not ask for any of this to happen. And it has progressed since then. Since I've opened the frequency levels, the meditation, everything has progressed. And ever since then, we would ask and talk and we would get stuff. Larry would get feathers left for him. Leave Larry a piece. We would find white. If anybody in their areas, you ever notice that you find white birch in the middle of an area where there's no white birch trees ever? There's a lot of people who have, and we would ask them to leave white birch in Larry's shed because he had a wood shed, and he would go out to his wood shed and there would be white birch in his wood shed, just pieces of the bark. I think they were trying to show him that you could use it as a fire starter, actually, because he had a wood burning furnace, and they would leave feathers, raven feathers, for Larry everywhere that he would visit. He had 3 spots he would visit on a normal basis: that wood burning stove, his wood shed, and his truck. And he would always go out there, and there would either be a raven feather at his truck or at the burner or in the shed. We got pictures of all that. And what else has happened at Larry's? A single footprint in the snow. Larry was having had a smoke, went back inside his house for a second, came back out to finish the smoke. There was a footprint right in the snow. Just one right there. And
how do you explain that? How do you explain one footprint?
And you find it's often you'll find one footprint in the middle of a mud field. How does that happen? I don't know. I can't tell you how it happens.
See, I chalk it up to me being poorly trained in tracking. Whenever I do it, I go, I know there's another one here. I just can't find it. But I can think of 4 or 5 times off the top of my head where I found a possible, probable track and find one or two, and then no more. And you found one in the snow, which, I mean, should be the easiest medium in the world to find tracks in. You found one, and you're sure there was not another one within 20, 30 feet of it.
There was nothing. It was on his deck that he was just smoking. He was just smoking on it, and it wasn't there. And when he came back out to finish his smoke, it was there. Yeah. But we didn't think back then about the woo part of it. We weren't into the paranormal part. We didn't do any of that. That didn't just happen. And the woo is just a name. This can all be proven scientifically with the right equipment. If you take a look at Skinwalker Ranch, the stuff that they're pulling off down there is incredible. Incredible. If you just pay attention to it, this could all be proven. Woo is just a word. And that's what gets me mad. Oh, you're just into the woo, but it's not a feeling in my tummy. It's something that's real, and we can measure and stuff like that. So this happened. And we have pictures of it. And I can't explain it. I don't know how or why or what they do to do that. I just found a trackway the end of last summer, 4 prints, 15 inch or 13 inch prints, a 5-foot gate, 4 prints coming down off a mountain. It came down 1, 2, 3, 4 ledge. After the ledge, nothing. Not down, not up, not down the ledge, not a broken tree in front of there. If you have a 13-inch print and you're walking through the woods and you're just going straight for something, you're going to break something. You're going to break a twig. You're going to break a branch. Nothing. It just stopped. Like it just stopped and led nowhere. But they were beautiful, beautiful prints. You can see that in the ones from up the road video. It's all in there. We found a knuckle print a little farther up there. It's perfect. No, you could put your hand in. It was perfect. And they were using a stick to dig a hole with. And it takes a while to learn what to look for. But we found that hole with the stick in it. And then we looked around and we seen a knuckle print, like it was leaning, digging at something in the ground. But that was it. No footprints, no nothing. But it was a knuckle print for sure. It's hard to explain all this stuff, but we need the right equipment, and it's very, 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 very expensive to get any of this stuff.
So, first of all, Misty, you got anything you want to add to this? Squirrel?
No, you told me I wasn't allowed to talk, so I'm just going to.
No, I did not. Don't you'll get everybody stirred up against me. I did not.
I'm just kidding. He really didn't, people. He really did not. But no, I do have a question. What's some of the equipment that you do use? I mean, if you wouldn't mind saying.
We're using a tri-field meter, but
You hush, Spencer. I'm not talking to you.
we set it to radio frequency. We don't use the magnetic side of it. Well, I mean, it's all magnetic. It's all in the same spectrum, the EMF, obviously. But we're measuring radiation that's coming at you. In the Green Swamp a year and a half ago, we had stones thrown at us. Why that meter was topped off. 1 dash 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 dash. That's what the meter read. We even contacted the makers of the meter afterwards saying, what does that mean? And they came back with us, the meter doesn't go any higher. That's all they told us. We had a satellite communication tech get a hold of us afterwards, and he did the research on the meters we were using and the readings. He says there's no way that you guys should have been experiencing that much level of radiation on such a broad spectrum in the middle of the Green Swamp. And then it happened here 2 weeks later at a mountain in Connecticut at the top. While having stones thrown at us, the same exact scenario. This meter was topped off for 15 minutes and didn't stop.
I've heard other people say that.
And
get sick from it.
Oh yeah, there was one of the kids that was with us that day in Connecticut. He almost got sick. He didn't feel good. It was just, he turned all red. And so that's what we were basing our stuff on. We got that from Skinwalker Ranch because they were using it and getting results. So hey, why not try it? Correct. And we just happened to go into the same right spots to get it. And yeah, he said if you were in a Faraday box getting hit with that much radiation, you would cook. He says there's no way, except if there was a drone or something flying above you, beaming down at you for some reason, tracking you or whatnot. He said that's the only other thing I can think of that would give you that readings. That's scary, getting hit that much radiation. Now Chris's Connor is, he witnessed this all also. He has a Geiger counter he's bringing in the woods with him now, just for this fact, to see what the radiation levels are really at. We're picking up EVPs all the time now. All the time ever since the Green Swamp. The Green Swamp has changed a lot of what we research, how we do it today. In my opinion, it's all intertwined. They're either all drawn to the same energy levels, the same energy areas, or I don't know, or the veil is thinning between two worlds, and there's more, because there are more sightings. You guys all can agree there's more Sasquatch sightings, there's more paranormal things happening, there's more of everything out there happening. There's got to be a reason for it. So that's one of the new gadgets that we got, and we got a couple more that we are trying this year for the first time, but we haven't started yet using them.
I agree.
Do you think they're drawn to specific areas, or do you think let me ask you this. If somebody was open-minded enough, or if somebody just your opinion, just kicking it around, do you think that boogers and supernatural things are drawn to specific areas, and that people that are open-minded enough are also drawn to those areas, which is why they have the interaction? Or do you think boogers are drawn to people that are open-minded enough regardless of the area? Because before we go down that rabbit hole, there are plenty of people that have had visual sightings that will tell you that they, hey, I've hunted in these woods 30 years, never saw anything, don't believe in ghosts or Bigfoot or anything like that. And then boom, they see a booger. Did those people just walk into the right area at the right time? Does it even matter if the individual is open-minded enough? Is it, what do you think? I mean, because at some point we've got to be able to kind of put this stuff together in order to understand the mystery of it. what do you think the whole deal is? Is it being open-minded? Is it the area? What?
I think it's everything you just said. I think you hit it all on the nose in those two. I think the Sasquatch are definitely, if you build, I think the more you visit your area and there's Sasquatch there, you are going to build a trust bond. You are going to build some kind of relationship. Again, this is very important. This is all IMO. This is just my opinion. This is not fact. I'm
Right.
not going to tell anybody that go do this and this is what's going to happen. This is just sharing what's happened with myself, with you guys, and that's all I can do is just tell you the truth because that's all I got. I'm not making millions of dollars off of this. I don't even make a dime, but I am sharing my experiences because I think it's important. I think awareness is important. Just like that, just like before I go into your question, I just want to get one point. Like that being lured into the woods. That happened. The following week I seen a family of 4 heading into the woods on that same exact trail. They don't know what I know. They don't know what's in the woods. They don't know what happened to me a week before that. What had happened to them? What if the little kids got lured into the woods and something bad happened to them? Awareness is very important, and that's what we are about. And if it's just, again, it's my opinion, but if I can get awareness just to people, just think even just a little bit that these things exist, because they could be 10 feet away from you and you'll never ever know it. So again, this is all my opinion, and it's all about awareness, and that's all we're out to try and prove. Because I'll never get a body, I'll never be able to prove it to the masses. But if I can get awareness across to people, then I've done my job. That's the way I look at it. So you build up. So we'll get back to the question. I'm sorry, I just had to get that out before. It's kind of like a safety statement. You know what I mean?
I
Yeah.
agree with everything you said. Every single thing you have said. I mean,
Well,
I tell Spencer all the time, and he's like, you're going down the rabbit hole.
Well, you got to experience it. A lot of people won't. It took me to experience it. I never thought this stuff was real until I experienced it. And once it started happening, it hasn't stopped. It has just progressed to the point where we've seen a flying a UFO over our house 2 months ago. Me and Maria, and she's all wrapped up in this too now. But yeah, it's all progressed to that point in time. But I think you build a bond with the Sasquatch if you visit your area enough, and they're there. I also think that they are drawn to vibrations. I think they are drawn to people's energies. I think energy has a lot to do with it. Um, I think all these things are focused on energy levels. I think the spirits are, because that's what they use as energy level equipment to get answers. Like they ask them questions, they're hearing voices, they answer their questions with certain amount of equipment, and that's due to the energy, the frequencies that they're bouncing off of them. I think this year is what we're going to try to do is learn how to use those frequencies and try bouncing them. We're going to get in triangle patterns, because that's a thing with Sasquatch. Triangle, if they come around you, there's a triangle pattern most of the time if there's more than one. We're going to start using frequencies, and there's recorders that we just learned from Doug Hychek. The Zoom H1N actually records infrasound. Their specs are wrong on their recording device. It goes lower than the 20 decibels or hertz, 20 hertz. It goes lower than the 20 hertz on the recorders. So it's actually recording infrasound. And the Deity HN3 microphones, the what do they call them? The shotgun microphones. They also record infrasound. So those are 2 microphones you might want to look into, because they're only $79 for the H1Ns, and they're the best. We put them on our packs. We've had them on our packs for 5 years, and we just learned this from Doug 2 weeks ago. He said, I interviewed him on KGRA, and he told everybody, yeah, these recorders are the best out there. He says, you're not going to get anything better. And they're only $79. You can't beat them. So anybody, if you're looking for a recorder, that's the one. So we're going to start trying to frequencies this year. We're going to start bouncing things. I've got tuning forks that I'm going to bring out, and we're going to do in triangle patterns. I mean, it doesn't hurt. Who knows? Won't know till we try it. I got an idea about trail cameras this year. I got a special way I'm going to wrap them, so where the only thing that's showing that can get any sun is just the camera itself that's coming out in the IR sensor. But we're going to wrap these things in a certain way that hopefully will block everything from all around. So if they come in from the back, they're not going to know it's there until they come out in front of them. So we're going to try that. And um, so yeah, I think the high energy levels are important. And this is not a lot of people didn't know this, but the aquifers. Now, what's his name there on Missing 411? Dave.
David Pilates.
Yes, he just came out with that new Missing 411, the alien connection or whatever it's called. And then mid video, aquifers come up. Very high energy areas. My area has a protected aquifer above it, under it. Chris's down in Florida has aquifers. There's people all around the United States who have aquifers underneath. Now this is groundwater for everybody, like springs, ancient springs in between, like quartz stone and everything, aquifers. Very high energy, and have very great interaction at these areas. This is just stuff you can find on maps. You can call your local state map and look up aquifers, and they'll have a map of them because most of them are protected. Tell me why there's a protected aquifer at the top of a mountain here in Connecticut. Doesn't water flow downhill to pool up in an aquifer? I think that's kind of strange in itself, but I'm not an aquifer specialist. I don't know if that's common, but to me, it doesn't seem common that there'd be a spring at the top of a mountain, but I could be wrong. Just so the long answer to your question, yes, I think they're attracted to the energy levels. I think they also bond with people that have that energy level, the vibration they think of. And I think the hunters that come across them is by accident. I think they're in those areas by chance and they don't know it. And they just happen to stumble across, because these guys are smart. They don't want to get caught. They don't want to be seen. I think that's just by accident. I think that's what happens when the hunters, but they could also, like you said, have that vibrational level that they feel comfortable to walk out in front of also. So,
well, because they might be drawn to an area doesn't mean that they necessarily stay in that specific area either. So if they're going from one area to another, they might very well, like let's say, for example, if they are drawn to wayline cross sections, or if they are drawn to aquifers, maybe they're going from one to the other, and whenever the hunter sees them, they're transitioning in between point A and point B. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't, in my opinion, it doesn't prove the theory or disprove the theory. Like, for example, a lot of people talk about caves. Well, some areas don't necessarily have a lot of caves right there, but there still might be a sighting right there. That doesn't mean that boogers don't use caves or cavern systems. Maybe they're going from one area to another area. But I think all of this, potentially we're trying to narrow down. I mean, if we can come to a unified conclusion on what areas have the most propensity to have a sighting or whatnot, maybe we will be getting somewhere. And I think, like you said, I think trying out the new equipment and everything, and using it in different ways, like what you were talking about, the game camera. We had Will Lunsford on last week, and I've spoken to him personally. I know for a fact he doesn't just go out and put them, ratchet strapped to trees every time. Sometimes he puts them in bushes or brush piles or between logs and everything. So I think that we do have to think about this from a different point of view. We've been trying the same stuff as a community for years and years, and we've gotten essentially the same results, for years and years. I do think it takes, fresh thinking and thinking outside the box to get different results. I like the fact that you're going to attempt to kind of speak to them in their own language with the vibrational thing. I mean, to me, until I see something beyond the whole flesh and blood aspect, I'm going to keep coming back to the flesh and blood aspect as my baseline. I'm not disagreeing with everybody else. I just, until it happens to me and I get some nudge outside of the flesh and blood thing, but I'm willing to go look there. I wonder about people in my position who are kind of, everybody's like Spence is asshole and he's just set in his ways and he's not going to budge outside that box. I wonder to a degree if that doesn't handicap people like me, because even unintentionally, I'm being closed-minded about the subject.
You're
I
getting
wonder
better.
if that doesn't, huh?
You're getting better. I will say you are getting better about it.
Yeah, but
But
they are flesh and blood, Spence. I never said they weren't. They do. They're here. They
right.
eat, they sleep, they hunt, they defecate, they do everything that they do here. Where do they
What?
go? That's the
Why do
question.
you?
Where do they
How
go?
how do you explain that? In your opinion, this is all just your opinion, but in your opinion, how do you explain, like, for example, if there were such a thing as interdimensional travel, why would they leave tracks? Do you think they just pop out in one spot, do something on this plane, and then go back to their plane? I mean, is that part of it?
See, I'm not a whiz kid on all this, but Tesla and Einstein both told everybody way a long time ago that portals were real, 100%. Tesla knew that he could make a portal. Tesla knew. Look at what happened with the Philadelphia experiment. The two of them
Right,
worked on that, put the towers on there. That ship disappeared and ended up where? In New Jersey, right? Somewhere like that.
right,
And then when it reappeared, there was members of it in the walls of the ship. They were all dead, but they were engraved inside the wall with this ship that went somewhere and did something due to the electric magnetic fields and the Tesla coils and all that. Um, um, so they are flesh and blood. What I've read, what I've been reading is the 4D and the 3D. We've all came from the fourth dimensional world. We all, a long, 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 long time ago, we were part of all that. We lost touch with it. And now we're just in the 3D. I think these guys have been here that long time. They know how to go between the two. They know there's certain ways to come through. And I think they do. I think they step out and then they step back in. I think the veil, they know how to use it. I can't say that 100%. But again, if you watch Skinwalker Ranch, they know that portals are real. These guys know. There was a show where they brought a scientist on, and they have a website that you can join, and Chris is a member. And they interviewed scientists off camera, and they went out there with bows and arrows, and they shot an arrow up into the sky. An arrow went up and it came back down. And the other scientist goes to the other scientist. He goes, "Well, it's not open today." "What's not open?" "What do you mean, what's opened?" "They're shooting that arrow and it's not coming back." That's above Skinwalker Ranch. They have anomaly maps that's above it. There's this big, huge. It's if you guys ever want to dive into that, and you want to read a good book, read Skinwalkers at the Pentagon. That'll open up your mind to a couple other things too. But over the course of history, this stuff is real. Look what Elon Musk is doing right now. What he is doing right now with that Neuralink is dangerous. That is dangerous stuff to operate a supercomputer with your mind if you want to. Why do you think he bought Twitter? He just didn't buy Twitter for free speech. He bought Twitter for all those people that use Twitter, all the people, all the files, all that graphics, everything they put in there. He's dumping into that Neuralink. And that's pretty scary stuff if someone ever gets, the hang of it. But this is all stuff you can look into when you dive down that rabbit hole. It's all in books. There's people that have experienced it. I just had Katie Page on my channel the other night. She's a member of MUFON. And she's been out there. You ever hear of the Colorado Ranch, the Skinwalker Ranch out in Colorado, where the
yeah,
Sasquatch came out and there was a cube out in the field that got brought to his knees. The aliens called the Sasquatch out of the woods. Now, ufology is a whole different scene that I'm starting just to dabble, just to read a little bit about because of what happened with Maria and myself. But there's so many similarities to when you're out looking with the Sasquatch, the triangles, the high energy, everything. It just seems like everything is linked. Again, I don't know. This is just my opinion. Again, I would never say, to my friends that believe they're flesh and blood, that's you guys can think that. That's what you think. And I'll always be your friend. I'm never going to debate you on what your beliefs are. I mean, I have people, who I've lost because of this. But I will never debate you. I will never think less of you. It's just the way I'm thinking and just what's happened to me. That's all I'm putting out there. My truth. This is my truth. I'm putting out. I've seen one orb looking thing in the Ozark Mountains, and that's the only time I've ever seen that. So I can't tell you about orbs, but I think they're their own phenomenon. I don't think they're linked to anything. I think they're their own special little phenomenon. I think they don't have anything to do with Sasquatch or aliens. I just think they're a light anomaly that happens due to certain things in the earth. They're attracted to certain metals. If you read books on them, people find them over certain mines, copper mines and silver mines and stuff like that. That these are seen on a regular basis. So I think it's its own phenomenon. But that's just the way I think. So I'm getting carried away with everything, but I just think it's important to let everybody know that imagine if someone that's like got great flesh and blood, they track, they do this, they know where they are, and then somebody knew the frequencies and this, and they got together and they started working together to get answers. Can you imagine what would happen when people start working together? You would get great answers, but it'll never happen because one can't believe in the other. But I mean, we get along. You do your thing, I do my thing. I bounce things off of you, you bounce things off of me. That's the way it should be. Work together. Right. And we'll get some answers. I mean, this is not far-fetched. This is all scientific. This can be explained. And that's what I try to do.
At the end of the day, I mean, to the average person who doesn't give two flips about Bigfoot anyway, we're all crazy. We might as well join forces, people.
Right. That's true. That's what Maria says. It doesn't matter what you think or whatever. Everybody, they're going to look at you as the same as the person that thinks that they're alive and they eat berries in the woods. They're going to think the same. Doesn't matter how far you go down that rabbit hole. But what we're experiencing in the rabbit hole, I have had witnesses to all of it. I have never been alone. And Maria has been a big part of it. And she doesn't want to be part of it. She wants nothing to do with what's going on here. We had a helicopter over my house, blacked out helicopter. For 10 minutes. I got little grandkids here. I don't need that at my house. I don't know why they were here, but it was unsanctioned flight. It wasn't marked. It wasn't reported. We looked at everything we could. There was no record of any helicopters in that area that night. That week, we had Sasquatch activity at my house. They were drinking the sugar water out of Maria's hummingbird feeder, and they were plucking the little flowers off the bottom of her thing and leaving them in a pile underneath it. And on day 4, they took one of her flowers. So she comes in now. She goes, "Your buddies are back, and they took one of my flowers now, and I know it because I was wondering what's drinking that my water. And every day I'm making new water." And she was getting upset. So the next morning, the flower came back. So she got her 5th flower back. That night is when the helicopter showed up, and then there was no more Sasquatch activity after that. It stopped. No more sugar water. No more nothing. What were they doing here? Do they got a way they can chase them out of an area, or are they coming to warn me? What are they doing? This is just stuff. I've had a coyote leg ripped off and left at my back door. Who does that?
About that.
Yeah, nobody's done that. I got sick and I couldn't make it up to my gifting area for a month. So like on day 28, Maria's looking out the back door. She goes, "What is that down by the back door?" And I'm like, "I don't know." I go down and it's a freshly ripped coyote leg. It had blood and stuff all over it. It was just ripped off the dog, left at my back door. And now a lot of people said, well, that was a present for you because they were worried about you. My area is 15 miles over through the mountains from my house. How did they find me? How do they know? These are a lot of questions that I have no answers to, and we're trying to figure out. But that's the only thing. I don't know anybody else that would come to my back door and leave a dog leg. It just doesn't happen. That stuff doesn't happen. So
that's admittedly that's crazy right there. Yeah. I mean, a freshly torn off coyote leg.
Yeah, it still had blood. I got pictures of it. It has blood all over it. It could have been warm for I didn't feel it. I tossed it in the woods, and I went and got my buddies at work because I work in the same place I live, and we come back and show them the leg. The leg was gone. The leg was gone.
So you tossed the leg back into the woods, and then you went to look for it again, and it was gone?
10 minutes later, came back. because I got my buddies at work, brought them down, it was gone. So whatever brought it, took it. Is my thing. And there's no animals. A black bear in Connecticut is not going to take a coyote leg. It's not going to take it to rip a coyote leg. It just won't happen. This was, I got pictures of it, but pretty gory.
So
this is an everyday activity. What I mean, this is that just can't. There's got to be explanation for it. It just, I got to try and figure it out.
My thing is, I don't know how you would be able to. I don't know how you would have a baseline for anything once we go down. I'm not complaining about going down the path of the whole paranormal thing. I'm simply saying that, like, for example, if boogers can hop in and out of portals, if they can pop out anywhere that they want to, there's no point in trying to follow tracks. You know what I mean? There's no point in that. There's no point in examining structure for direction and everything, which would take me into an area where I would be like, so if one of the structures were directional, you know, because I've got friends that will tell you flat out, some of the structures are directional. You got to learn how to read it. If they could pop in and out of portals, why would they need a directional thing made out of sticks in the woods? So I'm not complaining about anybody going down. I mean, everybody do whatever they want to do. But in my opinion, it gets to a point where it's like you don't really have a baseline to measure anything or to accumulate data on any specific thing whenever anything is possible. If they can disappear, if they can dimensional hop, if they can mind speak, if they can do any kind of hoodoo voodoo, anything is possible. How do you go about trying to find them, trying to prove them? I'm not really interested in proving them. Personally, I want to have a more exact method for locating them, me personally. But there are a whole lot of people who do want to prove it. If you've got these other aspects to it, how on earth would you ever be able to prove any of this kind of stuff?
You can't. It hasn't been yet, has it?
No.
And the only two really, we were talking about this with Doug Hychek the other night. The only two really great films were Freeman and P&G, and both were female Sasquatches leading the cameraman away from a child. Because you look at Patty, she was definitely suckling the baby. Her breasts were engorged. And then the Freeman film, they just found out that Freeman film, they follow it down farther and it picks up a little one. Nobody knew that. It's in the new book that they just came out with. You can see it. It's actually one of those scanning books that you scan over the code in the book and then it shows you a little movie on your phone. It shows them picking up the little one. And it was leading the other ones away from the babies. That's it. I mean, you see little glimpses here and there of what they call Sasquatch, but most of the ones you see are the ones with the babies. And that's it. I mean, people say they've tracked them for miles and miles and miles and miles. Well, where did they go? How come they didn't come across them? How come they don't come up to a cave? How come they don't, that you could go both ways. And I'm not arguing the fact that, they can be tracked and the directional markers could be directions to the portals or to the in and outs or whatever you want to call them. I've never seen a portal personally. I don't know if they use portals, so I don't know. I can't answer that question. I don't know if they use it. I can only assume by leaving one track in the middle of a muddy field that they're using something. They're not touching the ground, obviously, but that one print. Again, I've never seen a portal. I don't know what a portal is. I can't tell you what kind of energy levels it takes to make a portal. I can't tell you any of that stuff. But I can tell you that it's been how many years since the Patty film? What's that, 60
Yeah, it's
years?
got to be 60 now. Or
Where,
no, 50.
where are we? How much closer are we to proving this, or anybody? How much closer are we? We
Right.
got hair samples, we got scat samples, we got DNA samples up the wazoo. Hasn't proved nothing to nobody. Everybody still thinks you're crazy if you believe in Bigfoot. They say it's going to take a body. Well, where are the bodies? What do they do with the bodies? You ever find? I'll give you a question. You ever find a human body in the woods when you're hiking?
No.
Never. Has anybody ever found a human body while they're hiking out in the woods? Not too many people do, right? How hard would it be to find a Sasquatch body if they passed away out there? It'd be really tough. Now that's an argument for that. But what if they take theirs? What if they take their dead and they bring them wherever they bring them? That's why we can't find them. You could go that route too. You could go back and forth with both sides. You to both sides, both sides, both sides. Again, I just think if the both sides could learn to work with each other to a certain extent. I mean, you don't have to change your beliefs to work with somebody. All you got to
Right.
do is be able to sit down and have breakfast with them. If you can sit down and have breakfast with them and talk about things and then, try a little bit of each in your
You
areas.
have to be willing to listen to them.
Right, exactly. Be their friend. Just because they believe in something else doesn't make them a bad person. Doesn't make them crazy. Doesn't make them anything. Just makes them have different beliefs than yourself. So it's not that hard. And I think if we could learn to do that, I think we would make strides together to get farther than strides apart. If that makes any sense.
Misty?
I'm just listening. Hey, I agree with everything he says. I do.
You're right down her alley, Chris.
Well, I
Let's,
never was this way. I was on your side. I was flesh and blood until we're down in Florida and I got messages on my phone and scanning through my phone. And Chris said, so Chris doesn't think I'm crazy. Could you guys give me a knock on the tree? And then 10 seconds later, what happens? Knock on the tree. I fall in the brook. I'm not from Connecticut. I'm from Connecticut. I'm not from Florida. I fall in the brook. We get an EVP that says, hey, look, it's Chris in a southern draw. Now, he could have been talking about Chris Connor, but he wasn't the one that fell in the brook. It was me that fell in the brook. So why would they say, hey, look, it's Chris, if they didn't know who it was? We got that all on my channel too. The Vale interview, you can see that on my channel. It's all right there.
Yeah.
You can see the messages. You can see the EVPs. You can see it all. The rock throws and the meters going crazy. And that's what changed it all for me. And I never had an EVP before that. I never would catch them until after the Green Swamp. Now after the Green Swamp, we're catching them all the time. I got one couple about midsummer this year. I got out of the truck and you hear help. And then an hour and a half later up the trail, you hear help. And it's like same voice. And we never even think of. My buddy Al calls me up. He goes, you know what? You know what you didn't notice about that recording? I'm like, what? It followed you. You said you were an hour and a half up the trail from where you got that first help. Whatever that was, followed you. I never ever thought of it like that. That's creepy. That's what that hitchhiker thing comes in. These things follow you. What if somebody heard that in the woods, that like a family again heard that someone going help and they went to go and check it out?
We were at LBL and I actually heard my daughter yell for me. And I swear it sounded like she went, Mom, like, wait up. I'm going to come with you. Mark heard something too. I turned around, shined a flashlight, looked. She was nowhere to be found. We even walked back up to camp and asked her if she had yelled for me. She said, I was sitting here talking to Donna. I never said a word. But I mean, it was just as plain as day. It sounded like she was yelling for me to wait on her.
Yep. It happens all the time. A lot of people. I have talked to so many people since I went down this route that made me feel good. I'm not alone. There are so many people that are witnessing, like Misty, and there's so many people out there that are afraid to come out into public because they're experiencing this because of what will happen to them, the way people will talk about them. I said, you got to be, number one, you got to be tough skin in this the whole Sasquatch thing. If you're not tough skin, this is the wrong place for you to be, because you are going to get hammered from left and right. You're going to get talked about by your friends, the so-called friends in back of your back. And it's going to happen. And that's what I tell everybody. You said, you stick to your guns and do what you got to do. And
I got to the point where I don't even care anymore. It's You know what I mean? You know what you experience, and it doesn't matter what somebody says or what they think. People's going to ridicule you regardless. So I just anymore, I don't care. It doesn't bother me. I say whatever. If I know I'm telling the truth, and that's all that matters. You either believe it or you don't, and I really don't care anymore.
Right, right. Yeah, we're picking them. I put everything out to listen to with these EVPs. We just had a really crazy EVP that we heard. We were locking in a straight line, four of us, and the guy in back was carrying the camcorder, and all of a sudden you hear "Hey," and I didn't hear it. He heard it. The rest of us didn't hear it. Only him. He's like, "Did you guys just hear that? Hey?" And we're like, "No, we didn't hear it, but he heard it." And the camera heard it. Both of our recorders heard it. So then we'll walk 10 more steps, and all of a sudden you hear, "Hey," in a deeper voice. Now I hear that. He doesn't hear it. And the two others hear that, "Hey." So the three of us hear that, "Hey," and he doesn't hear in the back. Both recorders pick up the whole scene. So why is that? How come somebody 10 steps behind you is hearing a different thing than somebody 10 steps up in front of you? And then I'm recording this a couple days earlier. Then I'm showing this stick that's stuck in the ground next to a deer rub. And all of a sudden you hear, I'm talking about it, then you hear, "Ahoo." Now, how many times have you heard "Ahoo" reported out in the woods, Sasquatch, people looking for Sasquatch? It's common. And all of a sudden, plain as day, I got it right on tape. It goes "Ahoo," just like that. It's just stuff like that it's hard to explain what's going on. And if it's them, it's them. If it's not, who knows? I wish we knew how to get to the bottom of it. I guess you have to start looking into the paranormal and then talk to the ghost hunters and see, the frequency thing. I think that's what the next step is for me. At least I'm going to start reaching out to the paranormal and see how they do the frequencies and all that. Cause I think frequencies are a major point, because if these guys are infrasounding you, you should be able to infrasound them back. If you could get under that, if you can learn how to get to that vibration level. And who knows, maybe you could communicate that way. Maybe back and forth recordings could happen. So
That's what I've always said is I think they vibrate at just a totally different energy. I think it's just kind of like you was talking about, the tuning forks. That's kind of the way I see it, or the way whenever I'm trying to explain the way I think that they can move, or that the energy that they put off is kind of by the tuning forks. I think they're just totally different from what we are as far as the energy that they put off. But I think they do draw from stuff, just like you said, the underground streams, power lines, your equipment batteries, anything that they can take from. It's awful funny that the paranormal do the same thing. That's how they, are able to manifest enough energy for you to be able to get that EVP, or, see that ball move, or whatever. It takes energy to do it. So they got to draw it from somewhere. And I think places that have more, I guess, more energy naturally, or even, man-made energy, you're going to find more activity in those areas because they can draw from it as they need it.
Right. No, I agree with you. Like, you got the Meadow, and you got Skinwalker Ranch, and then you got the Colorado Ranch, and then you got what's the name of the space up in Maine? But all these high energy places where there's like Blind Fog Ranch, all these places have high energy, like you were saying, and Sasquatch are seen there. I'm not saying that they're derived from it, but I think they're attracted to it. I think they're all attracted to it.
Do you think that, like, something that I've talked about with a bunch of people is the battery drawdown, which I've experienced myself a few times. Do you think it's possible that such a thing as they need to recharge their batteries, or in order to do what they do, let's say, for example, maybe they do go back and forth between portals. Do you think it's like some of the stuff you were talking about with aquifers, do those areas possibly give off an energy that they can absorb and replenish their own energy or something, in order to transfer, from one dimension to another dimension? Do you think anything like that? you know?
Yeah. Yeah, anything's possible. I just think they're attracted to the area themselves. I don't know if Bigfoot needs that. You know what I mean? I don't know if the Sasquatch
Yeah.
needs. I mean, the Native Americans always called their spirit brothers. You know, why did they call them spirit brothers? You know, why did they say they could come in and come out? You know, there's much history on that. It's been recorded over decades. Like I said earlier, I think they have learned. They learned way back when, just like ourselves could do it, and they've never lost touch of it. We've lost touch of it because we decided to go different routes. We didn't need that. I'm trying to think of the name of the book, and I can't remember it off the top of my head. I'll have to give you a call back later and give you the name of the book, but it explains a lot of the stuff that I've been talking about tonight. And I just think they're all. I really think it's all energy. I think they're all just attracted to the ears. I don't know if they harness it. I couldn't tell you. I know spirits are said to draw off batteries and stuff like that. But I've never experienced battery drain. I've never had that happen. And another phenomenon, the smell. That smell that people call, say that rancid smell. But how long does it last for? It comes in for 3 seconds and then it's gone. How could something that wickedly bad smelling be there for 3 seconds and then totally disappear? You can't smell it no more. How does that happen? That's another phenomena that happens and it's recorded. I
I've
can't
never
explain.
heard of anybody saying about the smell being gone in 3 seconds, at least not that I can think of. But I have heard people explain that they smelt something here and then they come back an hour later and it wouldn't be there, but then they'd smell it again somewhere else, which, I mean, if an animal was giving off a distinct scent, that would indicate that the animal is moving. I've never heard of it being gone in a few seconds like that, but, maybe I just haven't heard of it that way. I get what you're saying, though. What so going back to how we started this whole thing, if you were to go back to the beginning, if you were talking to the younger version of yourself from a few years ago, what would you recommend to somebody that's going to watch this show on YouTube and they're looking for information to how to get into this field, and maybe they subscribe, to exactly what you're saying, and they're like, that makes perfect sense. Tell me how to go from A to B. What is the equipment that you would recommend to a new person? And how would you tell someone to go about finding an area to go out and start experiencing this kind of stuff themselves?
Okay, so let's start with the equipment. The most important piece of equipment you can get is not a camera. It is audio. Audio will give you more answers. I have a camera collection sitting behind me that's about 10 grand, and I have never caught a Sasquatch on any of it yet. We caught something on the thermal camera one time that was spider crawling. But other than that, I haven't caught anything else. Audio, I have caught a ton of stuff on audio. It's like tree. We used to leave the recorder at the gifting area just to see if we could get a reaction from. I left it on the rock one time and they snapped a tree so loud right next to that recorder it would give you the chills. And we went up there the next day and we seen which tree they snapped. So they weren't happy that it was in their area. But you will catch more on audio. I recommend the Zoom H1N. Strap it to your pack and always have audio going 24/7. I think that's the most important. Now, the next important thing that I'm using now is our meter. Hold on, I'm going to grab that real quick.
Sure.
While he's doing that, I will say you guys were talking about the smell. That's something also too. I know as far as paranormal or whatever, but a lot of people will smell sulfur.
Yeah.
So, they get odors with that also. So I don't know.
We've done moved on to equipment. We're covering audio now.
I was talking while we were waiting.
You were talking. I'll give you that.
I've personally have had the smell come and go. I was talking to Katie Page the other night, and the only Sasquatch activity that she says she's come close to was the smell at her new place up in Colorado that she bought. And she said it was the wickedest, raunchiest smell that she ever smelled. and it was there, and then it was just gone. But she heard a big tree break out in front of her house before she smelt the smell.
Hmm.
So is it one and the same? I don't know. But this is the meter that we are using. And then we are putting it on all the way on RF. See the reading I'm getting right now? I don't know what it says. But anyways, this is the meter we're getting. If you guys want to know what kind, you can get a hold of me at discoversasquatch@gmail if you guys have any questions about tonight. So a nice pack, a DNA. You always want to look for hairs. I mean, if you're there, you might as well do it. It's
Yeah.
not going to do you any harm. You got to approach these guys. Are flesh and blood. They do leave footprints. They do eat. They do break trees. They do, like I said, defecate. I never knew that they did it together. That's another thing to look for. Look for like piles of like 3 piles together because they defecate together. And I never knew that. And I found that out a couple months ago from somebody that they have them on their property. And that's how he tells where they've been, is that they all go to the bathroom in the same place all the time. So, and then we used to find 3 piles at Larry's all the time, and we'd find them together. But, they were definitely human or bigger than human size piles. And we just thought it was strange. And then all of a sudden it makes sense. And that's another thing. That's why it's important to write everything down, because you never know when it'll come back up. And it will. It goes full circle a lot with your research. Or I call it investigating. I call myself an encounter junkie. That's what I am. I'm not an investigator. I'm not a researcher. I am out to get that encounters, to get that interaction. That's what I want. But it doesn't help to have the DNA kit in your pack. It's very important. Always bring, and this is my biggest failure of all time, casting material. Always keep it in your pack, because I have lost a handprint. I have lost footprints just because I didn't have it in my pack. And that is rookie mistake. And I've done it over and over and over again. So now it's just, I leave it in my pack. It's a little extra weight, but you always have it. And you will find something that you cast if they're in those areas. If you know what you're looking for, you will find their prints. So the recorder, the meter, DNA kit, water, obviously, casting material, knife. I don't bring guns. I bring a knife just because there's other things out. But that's your own preference. If you want to carry, that's up to you. Just emergency gear, band-aids, you can get hurt out there. You must be careful. It's just, there's other things out in the woods, like you can break your ankle slipping on a rock. I mean, you have to be prepared for everything.
Sure.
Spencer's the guy to go through all that stuff. Spencer's the man about what to bring that way, and fire starter if you get caught out there in the woods. And Spencer's the man on all that. If you guys need information on that, because he can teach you how to build a fire with a drop of water if you need to. So Spencer's the man to go for that. But and then a camera. You can, I bring cameras. I put a backpack camera. I mean, people have had luck with that. Scott Carpenter has great luck with a camera on his back. I put a camera on the back of my pack. I have a camera carrying on a tripod with me, and that's what I bring out in the woods with me. That's what I recommend to anybody. Those are the major things that you really need out there. But the recorder in my book is the number one, and a compass. Never forget a compass, and always tell someone where you're going.
But before you go on to the other part, let me ask you a question. Have you ever had, flat out equipment malfunctions, interference that you 100% you're like, man, that's really weird. It
Yep.
wasn't, where it corresponds with a tree knock or a vocalization or something. Have you ever had anything tangible on an equipment malfunction?
Yep, we had one time we were sitting at this area and at Larry's at the gifting area, and we heard something like a thump on the ground, but you could feel the vibration under your feet. And Larry actually got up and got his machete. I'm like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I'm getting my machete." He says, "Whatever that was is scary." That's what he said. He says, "It's just plain old scary." So we take the recorder out to record everything that happened after that, and it was recording, but nothing ever recorded. The
Huh.
thing, the light was lit up, full battery. The battery didn't go anywhere. It was filming. I was recording, but after when we got home, there was nothing on the SD card. Nothing. We were shining in the direction we were the direction where the thump came from. I don't know if that explains anything, but yeah, that was. I think that, and then one other time we had the camera just shut off and it wouldn't reset. But other than that, that's all we've ever. I never had battery drain or anything like that. But that was a major part, man. We wanted to film that, and it recorded, but it didn't record. But we got everything. But the weird part is we got before, and we got the after clip, but the middle clip wasn't even there. It went different. It shifted different numbers. So the Z00012, and then it went to 00014. 00013 was gone.
Now that's odd. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what about the second part? What about if you were talking to the younger self you, in order to go out and actually start having some type of experience? And people, I don't care if it's the paranormal experience or the flesh and blood, you go out and find tracks or see one. I don't care. But to have interaction, you're going to, in some way, shape, or form, you got to be in the right place at the right time to have interaction, regardless of anything else.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say to people as far as dialing in how to find the right location, the right time, all that kind of stuff? What would you say?
I would say just the exact way I started off, looking at the structures, developing a pattern hike. Now, a pattern hike is the same route every time you're in the woods. I mean, it might get boring, but believe me, if they're there, after a while, it's not going to be boring anymore. Things are going to happen. They're
But
going to notice you noticing their stuff.
but are you talking about just going to any section of woods and walking around? Are you narrowing it down any at all for what you're looking for? Are you, bodies of water, certain altitude? How are you
So,
narrowing it down?
so personally, now that knowing what I know now, number one, I would look for aquifer. I would look for creeks. I would look for running water. Running water is very important. Everybody needs water to drink. Everybody needs water to survive. Water carries a lot of energy. Energy is very important, I believe, into all of this right now. So flowing water, bodies of water, aquifers, if you can. Aquifers, I guarantee you aquifers are really, really, really important. Check those areas out. Look on a map. You want to go into the darkest sections of the forest. You don't want to go out into the part of the forest where it's an open field and it's sunlight 24/7. You want to go in the woods where it's high noon and you can barely see in front of your eyes. They like the dark. They like the backside. I don't know, what is it, the northwest side? Is that the
North
side?
side. Yeah, north side.
So the north side of the mountains, you want to go and you want to get in these little valleys. And you want to get in these little nooks in the dark, dark forest. And then you want to start looking for their structures. They're out there, they build them, but you have to be, it's just not everything, because windfall does happen 95% of the time. You have to look at these things have been manipulated. You have to put it through you have to look up, you have to look to the right, you have to look to the left, you got to look at everything. Was this log brought in? Did it just fall from the tree to the side? Did the snow do it? I mean, a perfect example of all the bows. Those bows can happen from snowfall over, and it gets stuck in that tree, will never bend back straight up again. It's just growing that way for eternity. You have to look for these things to be wrapped around trees in between. I found one where it's in a straight line, but it goes left, right, left, right. And this tree is 6 inches in diameter and it is straight down in the middle of it. And the tree stump is up to the right 3 feet. So that tree did not fall in between those other trees like that, because the stump is 3 feet up to the right to where the end of the stump is here. So it's like this far apart. One part's here and the other part's back here. It doesn't fall that way. And then you look at it, how it was pushed in. I mean, you have to take your time and look at the structures. And then once you start marking them, mark the structures, mark what you're finding, and then see if it develops into a path, a trail, and then start following that path and trail. Go to the river banks that are on the side of it. Go explore as much as you can of that area, and then come up with your own pattern hike that you think will give you results. And then just keep on visiting the area and see what happens. I didn't hoot and holler. Like I said, we knocked on a couple of trees, but we waited for them to make the move. They knew, in my book, they knew we were checking out their stuff. They knew we were noticing what they were building. And I think that's why we got a reaction from them.
So you let them come to you by trying to just be there and expose yourself to them and being positive or whatever.
Yeah,
You let them come to you.
And then with the benefits of a pattern hike is they know where you're going. They can get ahead of you and watch you come in. They can follow you. They know where you're going every single time.
That's some really good stuff that you told me a couple years ago about the whole pattern hike thing. Why don't you go over that real quick? Because I do think no matter what you think of these things, whenever you find an area that has potential activity in it, I think what Chris says on this is spot on. Why don't you cover some of that just a little bit, Chris?
Well, the pattern hike we developed was, like I said earlier, was we would follow the signs that we were given. We followed the structures. We'd mark them on the GPS, and then we would mark Knox here, Knox here. I guess you see it right on Les Stroud does it on the beginning of his channels, the Bigfoot specials. He has a map and puts Knox here, whistles here. And then you mark them on the thing, and you just start following it. And then you want to do, obviously, you don't want to be going from point A to point Z like this. You don't want to be all over the woods and going through every point, because that's just a waste of time. You want to make the shortest distance between all your spots. And then you just want to constantly, every time you're in there, visit those spots. Show the spots interesting. So on our pattern hike, we found a pushed over tree. And on that pushed over tree was a log. A log would be leaning on the left-hand side one day. The next week we would come up and it would be on the right-hand side. And then one time we even went up there and it was balancing on the two, just like that. It was right before Thanksgiving. And I thought it was a whole different structure, but it was the same one. And it's on my channel. You can go and see it. And it just balances. And it's crazy. But right up from there, we found another structure that was just a pine branch, but it was left on a limb of a tree with a leaner up it, and you can see it. But in that spot, they left us a rock. That was our first gift that we got from them, because we went there all the time. That rock was never there. We went back in videos and video and never found it until that time we went up there. And it's sitting right here. This is the rock, that our first gift that we got from them.
What? So you kept the rock, but you threw the coyote leg back at him in the woods? How rude.
Well, I didn't throw it back at him. I just threw it in the woods because Maria really didn't want it in the backyard. So then we would find the pattern hike. That's, we would find, now that rock was marked. And then we found another thing that was called the double snaps. There was 2 snap trees going in the same direction.
Yeah.
So we would mark that on the branch. And then we found another little thing that was suspicious. So we would just mark it. And that's in that area, there was a stone that they would pick up and they would leave it up against a tree. Sometimes it would be on the ground. It was always being moved. So you mark that spot. And then you just, after time, you get that loop. And then you just keep on working that loop. And then eventually, when we were walking that loop, we were walking down that path and bam, the Knox came. So then after the Knox, we said, well, we were looking for a place to trade with. So let's trade with them where the Knox came from. That makes sense. 6 years later, we had some wild stuff happen. I had a monkey that we tied in a tree at the area that disappeared and came back a year later, the same week. The same exact, and it didn't look like it aged at all. It looked like it was well taken care of. Not like something that was out in the elements for a year in the snow and the wind. This thing was taken care of. And it was brought back the same week. And then we would find nests. We found nests along the route. And we just kept on following that same loop. Every time we went to Larry's, it was the same walk, the same hike, but it never got dull and boring because things started happening, especially with the gifting area. Now, I think a trading post is important. A lot of people don't think that they do it. I guarantee you something, we were trading with something out in the woods that like dinosaur toys, peanut butter, and red apples. Didn't like dog biscuits. At the end, after 6 years, we were burying our gifts in Tupperware containers under the ground with stones on top of it, with the same stone that was always on our gift rock that we used to hold like the pictures that we leave on top. Well, we would come, all the rocks would be off the top of the hole. The Tupperware would be out and out of the hole, the lid popped, and everything out of the Tupperware bowl gone. Now, a bear ain't doing that. A bear is not popping the Tupperware thing off. And then we would leave a peanut butter jar. We always made it harder, always harder, always tested. We put the peanut butter jar in a log and we put a rock on top of it. And when we would go up there, the peanut butter jar would be gone and the rock would be right underneath where the peanut butter jar was. No animals doing that either. They're lifting that rock off and putting it on the log. And I got video proof of it. I got video. And when we're following this, we're getting rocks tossed at us. It's all on my channel again. So that pattern hike led to the knocks, and the knocks led to us trading, and the trading led to everything else. Rock Throw Alley, we go the same way. We go to this top of this mountain. There's a fake fire pit there, and every time we go there, there's new breaks and twigs and left on the side like they're going to burn something. There hasn't been a fire in there in 7 years.
Right.
But every time we go up there, last time we're up there, I'm going to show my Facebook group live on the air, the fire pit. I lean over to show them, and all of a sudden a rock comes out of the woods and hits the fireplace as I'm talking to my group. And then after that, the rock started coming north, south, and east and west, and that meter goes red line for 15 minutes. And we actually caught everything on the 360 camera. We're actually in review of that right now because that 360 camera is a great tool because you can go any direction in the 360 and watch the entire video that you just laid from all them different positions. So Shayna has told us now exactly where the area is. So now we're going to go back. Hopefully, she said she'd seen one there that day. So hopefully we caught it on the 360 camera. But again, we go up there the same route, and then when we get down to where we got the whistles, you can see in the video the whistler from Rock Throw Alley, we called it, and you can see it's in the same area 7 years prior that we got the same exact whistles, and then we got the same exact whistles 7 years later. So again, we're doing the pattern hikes, we're visiting the same areas. We use a whistle as to let them know that we're coming, the same whistle in every area. And that works also. That works like gravy too. There's an area at the top at Rock Through Alley where they pop at us. They do mouth pops like that. Same exact area. Mark that down on the map. Visit that area every time. I'm telling you, the pattern hike is important, very important, and you will learn so much if they're there. You have to look for their signs though. If don't waste your time if you can't find their signs. It'll happen, but it'll take, a couple months to get into that routine. But once you're in that routine and it goes, and it doesn't stop.
We're over an hour and a half in right now. If anybody has any direct questions for Chris, go ahead and post them now, or at least tell me, comment that you already posted a question. Now I'll go back and try and find it or whatever. Do you have anything else that we haven't covered that you specifically want to talk about, brother?
Well, we got a lot of cool projects coming up this year. Hopefully my eye heals. I'm still battling my stupid eye thing, and hopefully that heals up. Our next project that we got is actually a 4-way project between a member of MUFON. His name is Mark D'Antonio. He's actually their head tech supervisor. He's actually has clearance in the Navy that's beyond colonel status.
Wow.
Very, very smart man. And he wants to try some new tech that he came up for the Sasquatch. So we're actually headed up to my friend Alfred Santariga's area. He's a member of the New York State Sasquatch organization, and we're going up to his area to do all this. And another member, Bill, from the KGRA staff, is actually accompanying us too. And we're all going to go up there for a weekend and see what what tricks he's bringing up. And we're looking really forward to that. And then something else just came up last night that we will be announcing on my channel, Discover Sasquatch, shortly. It's not coming out yet, but it's a happy thing, it's a sad thing, and it's an exciting thing, all wrapped up in one. And we're just very happy to be part of that. And then, like later in the year, Spencer, we were just talking, hopefully down south again to Alabama way, and visiting our friend Mr. Mark Green. I got so many invites from everybody. I'm supposed to go with Doug Hychek to Snow Grove Lake, the Sasquatch attack site there.
Are you really? I so want to go there. I want to go there.
Spot open.
Hey, let me know if there's an opening.
There is an opening. Talk to me afterwards. We got 2
openings. Yeah.
There's room for 2 more people.
Yeah.
And
that's a good area.
Yeah, they fly us in, and we're gonna go right. We already got it all planned, so we'll talk after the show. I don't want to give too much away. And then I was supposed to go out with Nathan Rio in Utah this year, but I don't know if the cards are going to be. That's a lot of money. I mean, this takes a lot of money to do, and I'm not the man to ask, for handouts. I'd rather just pay it myself, and that's how I do things. And so that's what's in the cards, and we're excited, and I hope you guys, people from my channel, come over here and subscribe over to Spencer's thing and Misty's interviews.
Let me say, if you don't know who Nathan Rio is, that's somebody, like we were talking about earlier, whenever you get in this field, you find people that you kind of like and you listen to them and you're like, oh, I think this guy, he sounds to me like he's telling the truth and he knows some secrets, so I'm going to listen to him. That's somebody that I listened to years ago getting into this, and you would have to go back and watch his older stuff to appreciate where he started out and how much information he gave out. He did some videos way back when where he talked about how to go about finding Sasquatch. Now, I'm not saying that his method is 100% foolproof, but he went more in depth than anybody I have ever seen as far as how to use Google Maps or Google Earth and to say, look, on this side of the mountain, look for these terrain features and everything. And unfortunately, I don't think it's out there on YouTube anymore, but Chris did an interview with him just the other week. It wasn't very long ago. It was like 2 weeks ago, something like that. And I'm glad that Nathan Rio is getting back into this area and talking about everything. I'd love to pick his brain on some stuff because I do believe the man had a lot of legitimate experiences in this area. But you should go back and look up a lot of the older Nathan Rio stuff if you can still find any of it. The Project Go and See stuff. But more importantly, you should go back and watch Chris's channel and all of the people that he's talked to. Because like me, he's not afraid. He'll cover all of it. Chris will go and talk to the people that are, in the woo area of it. I don't say that disrespectfully, but he's talking to people that are more inclined to the spiritual, paranormal aspects. He's talking to people that are more like the flesh and blood stuff. He's talking to people like Doug Hychek, who produce TV shows like Monster Quest and all this kind of stuff. You need to check out his channel if you haven't, because it's a really good source of information, and it's really entertaining too. He does a much better job of hosting than I do. I just interrupt everybody and pick on Misty.
No, you do a great job, and I told everybody on my page today to come on over and sub and all that jazz. So hopefully you get your name out, because you're very knowledgeable in the forest. I mean, like I said, backpacking and camping and knife making, and I can't wait till that starts up again. And all that stuff, that's all important stuff when you're out camping in the woods. You need to know how to operate in camping situations, especially if you're out looking for these boogers. See, I use booger.
Whether you find, thank you, I appreciate that. It's like the biscuit and gravy thing. He's trying to blend in. We can't talk about barbecue. We can talk about the camping stuff. We can. He's from Connecticut. What are we going to talk about? They don't have barbecue in Connecticut. He's probably never tried barbecue in his whole life. Like, he's heard about it. The closest thing he's gotten is whenever he goes through Wendy's and gets chicken nuggets, and he's like, yeah, some of that BBQ sauce. That's his version of barbecue. So we have to skip over that whole section. But anyway, in all honesty, though, whenever you're going out in the woods, whether you're actually going in booger areas and finding them or not, you should have some basic woodsmanship kind of skills, qualities. You should, at the very least, be carrying some type of equipment that could, help you survive in case anything happens, because it doesn't take anything to break an ankle, people. And if you get off trail and nobody knows where you're going, if you're not telling people where you're going and you get off trail and get injured, a couple things in your back pocket or in your pack can be the difference between life and death. So just saying.
Yeah, 100%. Then you're the man to go to. So if you guys got questions on that, go over to Spencer and he'll hook you up.
Well, I haven't seen any questions here in the past little bit, unless one of y'all have. See a lot of comments talking about the quartz and the energy things and all that stuff. Gary, what is Gary putting up? Oh, that's the old stuff, Gary. That's the old channel.
No, I think that link will still bring you to Discover Sasquatch.
Will it still bring you?
Yep.
All right. Look, Mark. Hold on. Look, guys, show this, Mark. He's not going to let that go.
What is a chitlin? What's a chitlin?
See, this is why we can't discuss stuff. This is why we can't discuss stuff like barbecue with Chris, because he doesn't know what a chitterling is. I'm
afraid to come down there now, Mark. You guys eat chitlins, whatever the heck that is.
I'm from the South, brother, and I ain't eating chitlins. It's pig intestines, boy.
Oh, no, I'm good. I'm good. I really.
Yeah. Trust me. You don't even want to smell. This is why people don't invite you on their shows. You're going to talk about this kind of stuff.
It's all good, man. I had a good time. I can't an hour and a half.
Yeah. All right. We're going to wrap it up. Again, if anybody has any questions for Chris, you can put them in the comments after the show or whatnot. Please check out Discover Sasquatch. Check out the Beast page. That's where I'm from. And, we've had Chris on there on the Beast show. And we've had a lot of people on there. And you need to go through there and check that out. And subscribe on the Facebook channel, if you would, for the Beast page also. Check out Bigfoot Lake. Bigfoot Lake is always on here. They've got some really entertaining stories. Somebody that I never mentioned, but I'm a huge fan of, met the man several times in person, Dixie Cryptid. It does not hurt to watch Dixie Cryptid's channel just for entertainment purposes. I mean, I love Cam. Please go check out Mark Green's channel, what's it called? Cedar Creek Farm. That's too long. That's too much of a mouthful. Yeah, I have that cup. I love that cup. Don't you?
Yeah, I do. Cedar Creek Bottoms Farmstead.
Yeah, Cedar Creek Bottom Farmstead.
Oh, wait. Before you go, hold on.
Yeah. I had that cup and I love that cup. That's actually my favorite coffee cup. I drink out of it all the time. You can get it off Mark's site. You can get whatever you want put on it, but the regular booger one like that, it's a great cup.
Well, they make more than just the cups too. They do, I think, coasters and all kinds of different things.
Yeah.
Hold on 1 second. I grabbed the wrong one. Figures. I got mugs coming out myself.
Check it out.
Yeah.
Did you have them make that?
Well, I did the design, and yes, and she printed them. Becca printed them all out.
That's a good looking cup, man.
Yep. So they'll be up on my page pretty soon.
That's a good looking cup.
Yep.
Like that. So hey, people, you can go over there and get your own cups made with anything that you want on it. Just telling you. And I know them; they're gonna try and do it right for you. Probably cheaper than anywhere else you can get them made out.
She was awesome. She did a great job, and
She is awesome. Yeah.
this is how I do it. This is how I got to give something for something. I'm just not going to take it. So this is how I get these stuff going this summer, and I need to get a new thermal. That's what I'm after. I need a thermal camera. Mine's ancient and over abused, so it's time.
Man, I cannot think of the brand that I have. I keep telling everybody about those because for the money, pound for pound, the sensor is. Hold on one second. Let me see if I don't have it right there. It's downstairs with my other gear. Spencer, you need to let Misty talk more. She has a prettier accent than you. Shut up, Gary. Shut up,
Thanks, Jerry.
She ain't chewing either during the show.
Oh, that's funny.
That's I'm just keeping it real, baby. Keeping it real.
Spam and eggs.
Don't start on the bacon spam. I didn't want any of that, but Larry Porch had it, and I swear, y'all, it smelled just like bacon cooking. And finally, like a month later, I kept walking past it in the grocery store, and finally, a month later, I bought a can, and I was like, I cannot let anybody see me actually eat, because I've had spam before, and
spam and eggs is great.
Well, I mean, come on, let's be realistic. See,
well, to bring camping with you, it's good if you're hiking.
Going camping, exactly. But I did try it, and I was like, "Holy crap! That stuff. That's some camping cuisine right there. The bacon flavored spam. You will not be disappointed. Makes a hell of a meal."
How are them guys doing? I haven't seen them out and about lately. Are they all right?
Everybody is good as far as I know, and I hope to catch up with them real shortly here. And I pretty sure everybody that they'll be back on doing the regular Thursday thing here within the next couple weeks or so. And just, hey, people, whenever you do this a long time, you need to be able to pull off and take a break for a little while. That's just the reality of it.
Yeah, it does. It gets overwhelming. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
Yeah. So. I'm sure there are other people that I forgot to mention. Please don't hold it against me. I love y'all. And to everybody that was in the chat tonight, thank you very much. I deeply, deeply appreciate it. Next week, I think I'm going to have a friend of mine, Greg House, on. I think. We'll see. I'll put the thing out. But I don't really like advertising on the Facebook channels. I feel weird about going on other people's channels and putting out there, hey, I'm going to have a show. And I'm not really doing this to become hugely popular. I'm trying to get the information and these other people's opinions out there to y'all. Because a lot of these people are people that I know and I've talked to. And we've kicked this stuff around. And I think it does everybody good to hear the inside stuff that I'm privy to and that I get to talk to people about. So that's why we're doing the shows and everything. But anyway, thank you very much for everything. Thank you for watching. Please go over to Chris's channel, go to everybody I mentioned and like and subscribe, all that kind of stuff. And people, that's the end of it. And if you have any questions for Chris, leave it in the comments and he'll try to get back to you. Okay.
Get in the woods, people.
Get in the woods. See y'all later. Bye.
Bye.